Debanshu woke with a start. The clock on the bedside table glowed 2:17 a.m. A strange scraping sound filtered through the stillness of their flat. He lay very still, listening intently. His wife, Ananya, slept soundly beside him, undisturbed by the noise. He strained his ears, trying to place the sound. It seemed to be coming from the kitchen. Debanshu hesitated. He was warm under the blanket, and sleep beckoned him back. The rational part of his mind told him it was probably just the old pipes groaning, yet a prickle of unease ran down his spine. He couldn't shake off the feeling that something was amiss. He carefully extricated himself from the warmth of the blanket and tiptoed towards the bedroom door. The scraping sound came again, a little louder this time, sending a fresh wave of apprehension through him. He paused at the bedroom door, his hand hovering over the doorknob. For a moment he stood there, caught between his curiosity and the desire to dismiss the sound and return to the comfort of his bed. The rational part of him scoffed at his unease, but the insistent scratching wouldn't let him be. The hallway was dark, the only light spilling from the open bedroom door. Debanshu crept towards the kitchen, each step amplifying the eerie silence that punctuated the strange noise. His heart pounded in his chest, a drumbeat against the quiet of the night. He reached the kitchen door and peered inside. The room was bathed in the silver glow of the moon, casting long, dancing shadows across the floor. The scraping sound seemed to be coming from the far corner, near the old refrigerator. He flicked on the light switch, momentarily blinded by the sudden illumination. As his eyes adjusted, he scanned the kitchen, searching for the source of the disturbance. The refrigerator hummed steadily. A few dishes sat drying by the sink. Everything appeared to be in order. Debanshu felt a surge of relief, chastising himself for overreacting. He must have imagined the sound, a trick of his sleep-addled mind. But as he turned to leave, a fleeting movement in the corner of his eye made him stop short. Debanshu tried to ignore the lingering unease as he settled back into bed. His thoughts drifted to Ananya, her face serene in sleep. He loved her dearly, their life together comfortable and predictable. Yet, a familiar discontent tugged at him, a feeling of being adrift in the mundane routine of their days. He thought about his responsibilities, his job at the bank, the monthly bills, the social obligations that filled their calendar. He was a dutiful son, a loving husband, a dependable friend, yet a nagging emptiness lingered beneath the surface of his well-ordered life. He glanced at Ananya again, her even breathing a soothing rhythm in the quiet room. He envied her ability to surrender to sleep, to let go of the day's worries and anxieties. He longed for that same sense of peace, for the ability to silence the restless thoughts that plagued him. His gaze drifted towards the window, the city lights twinkling beyond the glass. He thought of his mother, alone in her small flat on the other side of town. His mother had lived alone since his father passed away 5 years ago. He visited her every Sunday, dutifully bringing groceries and checking on her well-being. But he knew his visits were a poor substitute for the companionship she craved. He often found her lost in memories, surrounded by faded photographs of happier times. Her once vibrant eyes now held a perpetual sadness, a reflection of her solitary existence. Guilt gnawed at Debanshu. He knew he should do more for her, should convince her to move in with them, but the thought of disrupting their comfortable routine, of Ananya's disapproval, held him back. He justified his inaction by telling himself that his mother valued her independence, that she preferred the familiarity of her own home. But deep down he knew it was his own fear of change, his own selfishness, that kept him from reaching out to her. As he lay in the darkness, the scraping sound returned, faint but persistent. This time, he wasn't sure if it was real or just a figment of his guilt-ridden imagination. And the next few days passed in a blur of work and social engagements. Debanshu tried to push the strange sounds to the back of his mind, but they lingered like a persistent itch. He found himself waking up in the middle of the night, ears straining for any unusual noise. He even checked the kitchen thoroughly, examining every nook and cranny for signs of rodents or pests. But his search yielded nothing. The kitchen remained stubbornly normal, offering no explanation for the unsettling sounds. Ananya, oblivious to his growing unease, teased him about his newfound insomnia. He brushed off her concerns, attributing his sleeplessness to work stress. But deep down, he couldn't shake off the feeling that something was amiss. The following week, the strange sounds returned with a vengeance. They were louder now, more insistent, as if demanding his attention. Debanshu lay in bed, his body tense with apprehension. He knew he couldn't ignore it any longer. He had to find the source of the disturbance to restore peace to his nights. He waited until Ananya was sound asleep, her breathing slow and steady. Then he carefully got out of bed and crept towards the bedroom door. The hallway was dark, the silence broken only by the insistent scraping sounds. This time there was no doubt in his mind that the sounds were real. They seemed to be coming from the direction of his mother's old room, a room that had remained locked since she had moved out. He stood outside the closed door, a shiver running down his spine. The scraping sounds were louder now, accompanied by soft shuffling noises. He felt a prickle of fear, mixed with a strange sense of foreboding. Taking a deep breath, he reached for the doorknob. It was cold and damp to the touch. He hesitated for a moment, his heart pounding in his chest. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, he turned the knob and pushed open the door. The room was dark, the air thick with dust and the musty smell of disuse. Moonlight streamed in through the gaps in the curtains, casting long, eerie shadows across the dusty furniture. Debanshu stood at the threshold, his eyes struggling to adjust to the dimness. The scraping sounds stopped as abruptly as they had begun. The silence that followed was heavy, pregnant with an unknown menace. He took a tentative step inside, his heart pounding in his chest. "Mother!" he called out, his voice hoarse with apprehension. There was no answer, only the sound of his own breathing disturbed the silence. He took another step forward, his hand reaching out to feel his way through the darkness. Suddenly a soft, mewing sound pierced the stillness. He froze, his blood turning to ice. The mewing came again, this time followed by a flurry of movement near the window. Heart hammering in his chest, Debanshu fumbled for the light switch. As the room flooded with light, the source of the mysterious sounds was revealed. His mother sat on the floor, her back against the wall, her frail body almost swallowed by the shadows. She was surrounded by stray cats, their eyes glowing in the sudden illumination. They rubbed against her legs, purring contentedly as she stroked their fur with trembling hands. "Ma, what are you doing here?" Debanshu exclaimed, his voice a mixture of relief and bewilderment. His mother looked up, her eyes filled with a strange, childlike wonder. "They came back." "Debanshu," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "They came back." She reached out a trembling hand towards the cats, her eyes filled with a love that tore at Debanshu's heart. "They were so hungry," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. "They reminded me of you, of your brother and sister. I had to feed them, Debanshu. I had to." In that moment, as he watched his mother cradling the stray cats, her face illuminated by a love so pure and untainted, Debanshu was overcome with a profound sense of shame and regret. He finally understood the depth of her loneliness, the way her mind clung to fragments of the past, blurring the lines between reality and memory. The scraping sounds, the whispers in the night, they weren't figments of his imagination or signs of a haunting. They were the sounds of his mother's enduring love. A love that transcended reason and logic, a love that had found solace in the most unexpected of places. He knelt beside his mother, gathering her frail hand in his own. As he looked into her eyes, he vowed to do better, to be more present in her life, to fill the void of loneliness that had haunted her for far too long. The night was no longer filled with fear and uncertainty. It was a night of revelation, a night of reckoning, a night that marked the beginning of his redemption.